Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of MSTR Mondays. I am today here joined by none other than Dan Hillery, whom I like to call uh, MSTR Options King, because you've done really great on the options. Before we get into the show, I'd like to just state that the price of Bitcoin is at 102,000, and if we're looking at the price of strategy, it's at $406. And if we look at the amount of outstanding shares diluted for strategy, then right now that brings the market cap of strategy to 1.25 million Bitcoin. To me, that's the only denominator. And what's the medium of exchange? And then there's what's it called? Unit of account. Yes. To me, it's the only unit of account that matters, and strategy is at 1.25 million Bitcoin, because I believe strategy will amount eventually at least 2.1 million Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and because I believe they'll be able to generate an income with 2.1 million Bitcoin. I do think that strategy priced at less than 3 million Bitcoin, to me, is a very good investment. Nothing here is financial advice. But I do see strategy being very much undervalued at the moment. Dan, I reached out to you. Well, first of all, good to see you again. It's not your first time here, but welcome back. How are you doing, man? How's everything?
Good. Thanks for having me. Always good to be here, and
Awesome.
I like the price these days.
Right? Price is not bad.
Price is good.
So the reason I reached out to you, Dan, is you know this. I DM'd you, and Monday morning, as I was walking to, I'm in Copenhagen right now. As I was walking to my walking to my friend's place to sit and just work together for the day, and I was listening to you and Jeff on the last episode of True North, where you were talking about strike and strife. And I'm a very big believer in credit where credit is due, and you said two things that I thought was really genius. And that's why I wanted to have you on. We could talk more about it, and I just want to also share that with more people. And what better way to do it than obviously to have you here, as these words came from your mouth. Firstly, what I really liked. So I can just run through it real quick, and then I'd love to hear your own words on it again. Firstly, what I really liked was when you look at Strike, which is a fixed income product, which right now is trading at $95.50 on the $100 of the equity. It pays 8% dividend, which means right now it pays an effective yield of 8.4%. If we look at the price of strategy, which is $405, because 10 strike can convert to 1 MSTR, then once strategy pushes through $950, it will push the price of strike above it. No one will ever convert, because by staying in strike, you get your 8% nominal yield. So you will want to stay there, which to me means, and I could be wrong, I want to hear your opinion on that as well, that once we get there, I will be lacking a product where I can get an 8% yield and a way out of the money built-in perpetual forever call option. But what you said was, if you look at it, the $400 out of the 950 essentially is you're already owning strike. Oh, sorry, MSTR, right? So that's what does that work out to percentage right now? It may change a little bit, but if we just say
45%.
about 45%, right? So 45% of strike is you owning the full upside of strategy. And then
Yeah.
the remaining, instead of saying you're getting 8% of that, well, if you're getting 8.4% on essentially 55% of it, then now you're actually getting something like 16%. And so that was the first thing you said where I'm like, man, that's smart. That's novel thinking. And then the other thing you said was, so if you're buying strike on margin, then you're essentially you have that I would get 8.4%. I'm paying 12% on fidelity margin. So I'm paying a very small price to have this big call option that works forever
Right.
on strategy, and absolutely love that. So what I did, Dan, when I arrived at my friend's place, I got on my Fidelity account. I switched on margin. I spoke to them, and then I bought a bag of Strike because I like the idea. But so credit to you. I think that was genius thinking. Appreciate it. Thank you for sharing those thoughts.
Yeah.
What is your own thinking on it? Let's get your words on it.
No, I think what you said was exactly what I was trying to articulate in that short video. And yeah, a lot of people use, this isn't like a dig or a poke or anything, but it's like a lot of people use the word call option for strike. And I think it's different than a call option because a lot of people think traditional call option, and I guess, and it is accurate, it's a call option, but traditional call options are leveraged, whereas strike, you have a 1-to-1 payout with that MSTR exposure. So in the case of holding strike, you have that 45% exposure to MSTR. And so moving forward, you're going to have that same 45% linear exposure to MSTR. So people shouldn't think like, oh, it's like leveraged or something like that. They may get confused. But then the other thing, but I think the point you brought up that was so keen is, no one's going to convert this thing when it starts trading above its strike. And the reason is, I say strike, but when it starts trading above its liquidation preference, so $1,000 a share. The reason is it's senior in the capital stack. So let's say MSTR is at $2,000 a share. Strike will be trading at, whatever. It'll be trading at, it would be like 1,000 or no, it would be like 200 plus a little bit. So it'd be trading at 200 plus some. No one's going to revert back to MSTR, converting to MSTR for two reasons. One, as you said, the yield, you're still getting the perpetual yield. At that point, the yield will be so insignificant, 1 to 3%, that won't be necessarily the reason to stay. But the point is you now have MSTR exposure, but you're senior in the capital stack to Class A MSTR. So it's actually a more valuable product than MSTR. For someone who believes that Sailor and MSTR may be nefarious, like Josh does, then that's bad for MSTR Class A shareholders because you have someone senior in the capital stack that owns the right to the Bitcoin before you. For someone who doesn't believe strategy to be nefarious, that's just a very, very good and over-collateralized product. So I really like it.
That's a great point, though, too. That second point you had there, that being above in the capital stack, like, and the first point of getting a yield, you would never want to convert it. So what do you think, Dan? Because to me, until I was listening to your conversation with Jeff, which I finished Monday morning, I was thinking that, well, I'll probably take like all leverage off the table in October personally, right? Got some MSTU exposure, and I will take all leveraged exposure off the table in October because I believe it's the most likely month of a potential blow off top, and I do think that there's a reasonable chance of a bear market next year. And then I thought I'll put that all in strike because I'll make 8%. But in case there's no bear market, which definitely is a possibility on the table, I still got upside. It's not like I'm just in cash, right? I'm not a Strife buyer. I'm not interested in the Strife product. I think, until you do an episode on that and tell me how phenomenal that is. But that's what I thought about Strife. However, to be realistic, MSTR is going to be above $1,000, I believe, come October. So the yield on strike is now going to be less, because, as you said, once the price starts just climbing on strike, which MSTR will be pushing up, then how do I get a, another product with 8% yield with a out of the money? So you don't want to use the word call option but what do you,
I think
so what do you want to call?
conversion, call option's right. Call option is technically correct. I'd say a conversion right. And I know that, but conversion right because it's
okay.
easier.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to think about, but call it what you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might continue to go with call option because then I don't have to learn a new word. but it's essentially the same thing, right? It's
exactly.
It just happens to be a call option that it makes 0 cents to use, but it will push the price. So let's say MSTR is at 2000 in October, but someone would like to get an 8% yield and a way out of the money call option just in case it continues. I personally think that it makes sense for MSTR to bring new products to the market that are now further out. One could be called Tor. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking to Saylor, that's pretty much what he was saying. He's like, we're going to issue a whole host of these products, and they're going to have to. So to your point, I think come October, if we're trading that high, then there will be an option for you in the market, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. Yeah. I unfortunately couldn't go to Orlando. Big FOMO on that. It looked amazing seeing all of you guys there. I knew you guys had a great time, and I wish I was part of it. But
next time.
you had that conversation with Saylor, and that's what makes sense. It is the logical thing. I want to share also with you let me share a screen with you of a bunch of, as we all know, and you guys have spoken about it as well. There is a bunch of new leverage Bitcoin equities that have joined the market, so to speak. Let me see if we can get a little bit bigger. Nope, that doesn't. Oh, that's better. Have you seen this graph, Dan, from it's Actual Climber, who has put on a lock chart the amount of Bitcoin that Strategy and Semler and Metaplanet and ALTBG have on the balance sheet?
No, I haven't seen this. This is super interesting. Really, really interesting.
No, I definitely do as well. And so what's interesting, I was one of the, well, first of all, I love what Strategy is doing, and they have the only real long-term track record on in this space. They created LBE, the BDC leverage Bitcoin equity BDC treasury, not just as stacking sats, but as using financial products to acquire more Bitcoin. And as I saw someone wrote on X today, they're also the only LBE that has survived a bear market. And there's going to be a lot of I'm guessing some of the new ones, let me not be too negative, but I'm guessing some of the new ones might do some leverage that could put themselves in danger. One beautiful thing with Strategy is that their Bitcoin are not encumbered. None of them are put as collateral. Saylor cannot be stopped out. So there's a lot of great things to say about Strategy, and probably one of the most positive things. I want to get back to that on this one, but what I do like is the execution we've seen from Dylan Leclerc and Simon Garowich at Metaplanet, and they do have the second largest track record, right? Which is funny. It's 13 months, but that is the second largest track record.
Yeah, and Dylan's a known entity. He does a great job. Simon's he's a gangster. He was trading fixed income in Hong Kong back in the day. Like, these guys are sharp. So yeah, I'm totally behind them as well.
And so what do you think about the BDC yield of of um, strategy versus Metaplanet, for instance?
I think you make, like, all these cases that Ladder is pointing out are fantastic points. Like, I totally agree. It's just, what are you going to trade? And like, for me, the question isn't
Mm-hmm.
MSTR versus it's not MSTR versus Metaplanet. I think Metaplanet spot is a little bit slightly riskier, but obviously there's a lot more upside there. But it's really MSTR call options or Metaplanet spot. And I think that's the $1 million question everyone's gonna have to answer for themselves.
That's actually a great point, because the highest return probably is that area that you specialize in yourself, which is call options on MSTR. I've seen you post your portfolio. Am I getting it right if you have approximately 500,000 in MSTR call options, mainly with the biggest chunk expiring Q4 this year and Q1 next year?
Yeah, exactly. It's like 700 grand. But the
Okay.
majority is those um, December 380s. Yeah.
December 380, right. And
Yeah.
when I took a quick look at that, within like 20 seconds, I'm thinking, all right, Dan, he's likely gonna do 10x on that. That's the level of, like, that's how I
Mhm.
look at your portfolio.
Yeah, and it depends. I've been quite conservative with those strikes, but I was scaling into those last summer. So those are all long term gains, which is nice at this point. A lot of them are. So yeah, that's how I've been playing it. Like, there are a lot of factors, right? It's like, okay, when do I want to sell them? Like, what kind of exercising do I want to do? This, that, and the next thing. Compare that to Metaplanet. Sure, I could go dump those and buy Metaplanet, but then you take all the taxable events, and so for everyone, they have to figure it out for themselves. But I think Metaplanet is a cool call option on Bitcoin. It's like, okay, you're going to buy IBIT calls, or you're going to buy Metaplanet. Well, Metaplanet might be a better call option, because, like, my whole speech in Orlando is about, an equity is a call option on it's a call option on the assets of a corporation at some time in the future. So when you buy Metaplanet, you're essentially buying a call option on their Bitcoin stack 1, 2, 3, 4 years out into the future. So I think it's a cool way to express your bullishness on Bitcoin, is through sort of a leveraged Bitcoin equity.
Yeah. And the thing with Metaplanet, if you look at that as a call option, is since it is an equity, there is no expiration on it.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
so the interesting thing there is, well, a lot of us saw how Dylan and Simon were executing last year, but we also saw, well, first of all, it was trading in Japan, so it was a big hassle getting your hands on it. They then listed the US ticker MTPLF
Yeah.
end of November, but then initially the MNAV was like 10 or 8, and
Nuts. Yeah.
yeah, plus minus, right? So it's, I think, I know Climb the Ladder, myself, others probably thought, okay, that's a little bit rich. We like strategy. They got the game plan. They developing the playbook, and are executing phenomenally. Why, seems like a good bet to stay with Sailor. But then, and I will say that I have 3 times the MSTR exposure than I do with Metaplanet. Just I don't. So I'm definitely a big MSTR bull as well. Those are the 2 that I really like at the moment, to be honest. Um, but then Climb the Ladder saw that the MNAV came down of Metaplanet, came down to 2.5 or something, and that's why he's moved his focus there, and that's why I've diversified, I guess you could say, and got some of that as well, and do like the outlook. But tell us some more about your, because I know you have a lot of wisdom um, within call options and MSTR. How do you work with your call options today on strategy?
It's just like timing. You pick your expirations and try to give yourself a little cushion. So timing, I'm just looking at global liquidity, macro stuff, and I don't want expirations that are like, My target date for when I'm going to exercise or sell, I try to pick to be 2 to 3 months before the actual expiration date of the call option. But that's pretty basic stuff. I'll sell weekly, bi-weekly calls based on certain conditions against those calls to kind of de-risk, because you got the ATM going. So I find it unlikely we're going to do a triple in a month. Like, that's a real risk if you're selling weekly calls, is like, I think we can do a triple in 2 or 3 months, but I don't think we're going to do a triple in a single month. And so I want to express that when it trades. So I'll be selling a little bit of upside here and there to de-risk the calls themselves. But you're just kind of threading the needle, trying to figure out what's the trajectory of strategy moving forward. And I think it's up and to the right. I don't think it's a step function necessarily, but we'll see.
Right. What learnings have you made that you would share with anyone considering call options and strategy?
I think we all are. I mean, I definitely learned this lesson. You want to be careful with those high implied volatilities. So implied volatility is just the future expectations of the volatility in the stock. It pretty much gives you a sense of, for this strike and expiration, is this an expensive call or a cheap call relative to how much the stock moves around? And if that volatility is high, volatility tends to be mean reverting. So just be careful when you're buying during kind of euphoric times. Right now, I think things are still pretty tame, but that's something I've learned.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, I mean, those of us who were here in November last year learned a lesson in taming euphoria, and a lot of people were diving in heavy on leverage when it was just mooning in November, and got burned on that. I owned some MSCU back then, which I still hold. I got them below $4 at that time in November. They were $31.50. So that was pretty awesome. I did sell 20% of them total. But then I rode it from $31.50 to $3.50. This is a dangerous product. So that's all exiting my portfolio in October for sure. What's your thoughts on bull run, the 4-year cycle, and when you would want to exit your call options?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it from the implied volatility and kind of market sentiment perspective. I'm trying to just look a few months out and figure out what I think the next 6 months will bring. So I'm trying to just be very intellectually honest. Like, I don't know what's going to happen over 2-3 years, but you can kind of get a gauge on what may happen in the near term. So I did that time looking at it, Anders. I don't know how you are. I think a lot of smart people are saying that, cycle's still on intact, but you're saying October. I completely agree with that. I think that if we're, super overheated in October, completely agree with that.
Yeah. And the way I'm phrasing it is I'm saying it's the most likely month for a peak, but obviously you can't sit here now in May and say that's going to be the month, right? But I would say that's the month that has the highest probability. And why is that? Well, the 4-year cycle is a little bit shorter than 4 years because of the mining happening in Bitcoin, and because the price of Bitcoin goes up over time on average. That also means that people are investing in mining and bringing new hash rate online, which then means that the halvings or the blocks are found little bit less than 10 minutes, which means that the 4 years a little bit less than 4 years, like plain and simple.
Okay.
Said in other words, because new Bitcoin mining comes on board, it cuts the mining time down from 4 years to a little bit less. So I saw how Bitcoin had a peak in December 17, and then again in November 21. So you cut 1 month off the 4-year cycle, and that's why I'm saying, and we've also seen the actual halving date where the fresh supply of Bitcoin is cut in half has moved forward. And that's what I'm saying. October is most likely, but maybe it happens earlier if there's big euphoria in September or August. That might be the blow off top. I think that what we need for that a bear market to kick in that you can't stop, it's kind of like an avalanche, is enough people, retail investors, I guess mainly, having very leveraged positions that then just starts unwinding. People get margin calls, they're forced to sell, brings the price down. Next guy was a little bit more conservative is now also forced to sell, and it just rolls down. And there's literally nothing stopping that avalanche train when it happens. So I just want to be wary of that.
That's a really good
But
point.
but I want to go back to strike and strife, which I think it makes strategy, which it sounds funny, but it actually makes strategy, in my opinion, a bit of a sleeper now, in the terms that I think people are starting to believe that because diminishing returns, it's a big number. They think that, well, strategy's just going to live with a smaller BDC yield than all the small ones. I actually don't think that necessarily has to be the case. And I think it's strike and strife that are the reason for that, or they are the reason that I believe that. And I mean, if we just look at strife, which is the straight up fixed income, 10% return, $10 on the $100 nominal, it's right now traded at, strife is traded at $97.50, which means it gives an effective yield of 10.3%. But that is the first time ever that there has been a financial product that does not care, that where money goes into Bitcoin, but it doesn't care about the price of Bitcoin. It's a financial product that has a superior fixed income yield and also the first time ever there's been a product to the $300 trillion global bond market. And I think the key there is credit rating. When they get, and we heard Saylor talk about that, right, at in Orlando, that once they get a credit rating strike and strife, things could change. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at Strife and Strike this week. They had pretty big weeks. And the reason something goes up in price is because someone's buying it. So I think the ATM for Strike and Strife will be bigger this week. And Saylor's talked before. He doesn't really love dealing with the convert arb shops because they're pretty predatory with the pricings. Everyone knows during a pricing period, the short interest on the stock is aggressive. The stock tends to crumble. They get a really good conversion rate. And then they go off and convert arb the shit out of the stock, reduce the volatility, and pretty much just ruin everyone's day. So that's kind of what's going on with the convertible notes. And so switching over to Strife and Strike would be massive. And the interesting thing with Strife and Strike is you can have your cake and eat it too. Like, he's de-risked so much for these Strife and Strike investors. And there's a lot of people that claim, oh, Strife and Strike aren't gaining traction. It's like, no, they're like they're like almost better products. So I think they're going to gain traction. People are going to love them. And to your point, the credit rating, come on, like an investor grade preferred equity right now is yielding about 6.5%. So if Strategy's equity converts it or transitions to that sort of investor grade rating, to your point, I mean, Strife and Strike's principal will trade up 30-40% from where they are now. So there's a ton of upside in those products actually, which is cool to think about.
Yeah, and I bought Strike Monday, and on days where some of the other things are down, my safest product, which is just this fixed income called Strike from Strategy, not only is it gonna give me a yield, it's also up in terms of the
right? Yeah.
I think I paid, what did I pay? $92 or something, and now it's trading at 95. And I'm laughing while some of these LBs have not gone up and gone down a little bit. Some of them like a lot.
And I think that's a market play. To your point, I'm sorry to interrupt, but to your point, it's like, you're like, oh, are you going to pitch Strife? And I am going to pitch Strife because Strife is cool because you can. So let's say you think that MSTR strategy is an investor grade product. Strife is over collateralized, so it should trade at a 6.57% yield, whatever. Then if you believe that, then there's upside in the principle of STRF. So if you're bearish on the price of Bitcoin or maybe MSTR in the near term, you buy Strife once strategy's in the S&P, and you're betting on an increased creditworthiness of strategy because of their inclusion. That's a shit trade, in my opinion. You rotate out of MSTR once they get included in the SPY, then you rotate it into Strife because you know the credit rating will go up. If you do another 30% on STRF, I mean, that would be an absolute monster trade, in my opinion.
Are you gonna do that trade, or are you gonna focus on the call options?
I'll probably use premium. I'll probably use margin to make that trade.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing, right? And that's the only reason, because I want to stay far away from risking. I don't want to blow my account. I've tried blowing an account before. You learn a lot, right? I've blown an account. And you learn the value of when you have investment opportunities like strategy itself, with such a phenomenal upside, with, in my opinion, such a high degree of safety, then why not just own that? Why get greedy, right? So if you want to do anything, you gotta be careful. You really gotta be very careful with starting margin. But I listened to you Monday, and I opened up margin on my Fidelity account. But what did I do? I bought Strike. Strike is not going to go down, and well, it has very limited downside. It's
Right.
I would say a very safe looking investment. And honestly, right now, you can get these high yields for Strife and Strike. I prefer Strike because it's not such a big difference on the yield, and I like the building call option because I believe
Absolutely.
that MSTR is going to blow through that, right? So I do like that 45% of it is moving up like strategy, but it's not moving down. It's beautiful. So right now, I think that they're both such attractive investments in just for the credit rating. And then I didn't think about what you just mentioned, but the S&P 500 inclusion, that's going to increase strategies credit rating, which I presume will rub off on the credit worthiness of their fixed income products.
100%. Yeah.
So if the market, if it's S&P 500 included, the product itself, Strife, gets a credit rating that that reflects that it is right now the first 1 billion out of 58 billion dollars worth of assets. It's the first 1 billion in the capital stack in terms of a bankruptcy situation. It is basically hardcore, like safe, in my opinion, not financial advice. But looking at just S&P 500 inclusion and credit rating on the product, that could trade from where it is now at 90 something to $150 over the span maybe of 4 months. I don't know how long time it takes to get the credit rating, but the S&P 500 would likely happen this summer. So there's, and what's the downside? There is not much downside right now. Like Bitcoin would have to die.
Yeah,
Bitcoin would have to go to $2,000 and stay there. But the upside is it could go to 130, 40, $150.
Yeah, to your point, the upside, the downside is binary, like the payout. Like either strategy goes bankrupt and Bitcoin goes to zero, and then you get paid out nothing, or even if strategy goes bankrupt and they still own the Bitcoin, you still get paid out the liquidation preference, so you should be fine there. Or over the long period of time, the credit worthiness of the company, it continues to increase. So to your point, like it's a binary payoff. You don't have to worry about the volatility in the same way you do with MSTR. Like MSTR margin, you could take a 50% drawdown, get freaking liquidated, and what happened with Strike, the volatility is a lot. It's either it's going to zero or it's going, it's going to be cushioned downside and then move up into the future.
Yeah. So the point I wanted to make with what I started like 10 minutes back or so is the reason I think that strategy can really go back and turbocharge that BDC yield. If we just go back and look at this chart that climbed the ladder made of on a lock chart, the Bitcoin holdings from the different leveraged Bitcoin equities, strategy playbook companies, call them what you want. is so strategy is more flat here. However, Dan, I think that when you have a product like Strife, which targets a $300 trillion global bond market, it is a superior product. Once you get the credit rating on, once you get um, the S&P 500 inclusion for the company, all of those things improves the attractiveness of um, of Strife in the institutional investor's mind. I think we could see, they could be ATMing Strife 10 billion a week, and it wouldn't make a dent in the global bond market, and they have a superior product. They could literally be ATMing $50 billion worth of Strife a week, and that would break the Bitcoin of strategy to the upside, in my opinion.
Totally agree. That's the
What's your thoughts on that? Are we am I bullish enough here?
I
Because
think
I'm
you're
very
both.
bullish in that.
Yeah. No, I think that's the ace up the sleeve here. People aren't giving enough credit. If that ATM starts coming online, everyone's hopes and dreams about the Class A ATM being limited will come to fruition. So, I mean, and that BTC yield will just like the BTC yield will continue to climb with less pressure on the outstanding stock. And that's kind of the thesis. That coupled with S&P 500 inclusion, I mean, it's a pretty good time to be long, in my opinion. And it also takes away from this idea of muted upside. Like if that starts to ramp up, that increases upside acceleration for BTC yield, exactly what you just said. And so I think that's pretty exciting for shareholders, for Class A shareholders at least.
Yeah, just talking to you about it, it makes me extremely bullish for strategy for this year, like just for the next 5 months, honestly. Do you have any knowledge about how long time it takes for them to get credit rating on these products? That's one question. Another one, do you know how long time did it take to get the enough volume on Strike that they could start doing the ATM? And do you have any knowledge of when that might be possible to do on Strife as well?
I've heard rumors the next couple of weeks, like within the next month for Strife ATM. But I haven't been looking at the exact Strife volume. Then credit worthiness, credit rating. I don't really think you need an official credit rating on these products for investors to decide they're more credit worthy. I think S&P 500 inclusion will be a large catalyst for people to do their own research and figure out that they're credit worthy products. And then once they believe it, the supply and demand kicks in and will push that yield down if people start buying them up. So we'll see. I think the likelihood Moody's rates those products within the next year is low. I guess that's my other point.
It just makes me think that looking at Strife and Strike, they're pretty much priced as junk bond, but you and I know that it's not junk. It is grade A, institutional grade investment paper that just hasn't been rated yet, and the company's about to be included in S&P 500. It's hard for me to see that these don't take substantial increase in price. And again, I just see very limited downside. So yeah, again, Strike is what I prefer. I just looked at the website, Dan, and I'm talking about strategy.com, that on their website have a lot of metrics that are updated real time, super interesting on the stock, on Strike, and on Strife. And it's showing right now that the trading volume for Strike is 6 million, and this trading volume for Strife is 8 million. I don't know if that means that's happening today. If that is the case, I guess we could say that right now, Strife is trading with higher volume than Strike, and I know that's I think the main criteria for when they can start doing the ATM.
That's a good point. Totally. Yeah.
But I could imagine that Sater and his team might wanna, instead of hammering the ATM heavy on it now, wanna see the market trade them significantly above $100 so it's more accretive when he does start hammering those billion-dollar ATMs there.
Mhm.
What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
I mean, it's like a weird product, right? Because they're fixed. Like the coupon, in theory, should set the coupon and the creditworthiness and interest rates should set the pricing of those instruments. So they would, in theory, be able to ATM much harder relative to the traded volume than they can on Class A shares. That's kind of the way I look at it. So, I mean, I don't know how it'll work. Yeah.
And I'm just I did a quick and NDJ is asking how long I'm in Denmark. So as some people know, I lived in a rented house in Pacific Palisades, which burned in January. So I'm 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 choosing to turn that into something positive by not paying more rent than I have to. So I'm traveling a lot right now, staying with family in Denmark. And that way I can save some sats. So right now I'm in Denmark, and I'm in Denmark until Las Vegas. 26th of May, I'm flying to Las Vegas for the Bitcoin conference. You're gonna be there, aren't you, Dan?
Yeah. Yeah. It should be a good event, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm looking forward to meet you.
Yeah. Likewise.
What's your is there, because I have, in terms of side events, the only thing I did is when I bought the ticket last summer, end of July, it was right after the Nashville conference. I got also an event wristband that Bitcoin Magazine has, some like day parties, some nightclub, whatever, like a package of. Do you get that, or am I like the only person that gonna be at the?
Yeah, I got my ticket through some like affiliate thing, so I don't even know what it includes, but I don't think I have that. Hopefully, we
Okay.
can up, however.
Oh, for sure. Are you going to be staying in the hotel of the conference?
No, I'm across the street.
Okay,
What it's called, but yeah.
sure. But no, we're definitely meeting. But what about other? And that's one thing I haven't looked at yet at all. I've had a bunch of things going on, but what other events at the conference do you side events? Is there any that you know that you're planning to go to? I'm planning to go to Thanks God for Bitcoin. I don't know if you heard about that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Um, I think we're having a couple pop up. Hopefully, I know I have a couple dinners to attend. We'll probably do a True North thing with you, hopefully someday during the day. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been planning as much as I should.
That'd be awesome. If you guys like do a True North, and then I can tell the people I know as well, and mention it here on the channel. If we get people together at some bar or whatever, everyone get a chance to meet and say hi. That could be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. It really is that FaceTime you get with people that you're aligned with, and that you have some shared values with. That is awesome.
Totally agree.
If anyone watching either on X on YouTube have some questions for Dan, be very happy to bring them on the screen, and see what pick the brain of the expert here, the options king.
Perfect. Yeah, I've got like 20 minutes if that's good, Anders.
Yeah. We can do another 5-10 minutes here. If there's any. So lastly, according to the title of that I put on the YouTube, I did mention Strife. We spoke about that. I think we had a great conversation there, and Strife. Also, just the slew of the tsunami of LBES, leverage Bitcoin equities, coming on board now. It's like once a week, a company backed by billions is being listed. What's your thoughts on all of that? You're staying focused on the strategy call options, right? It's what you know. It's a company you trust. They have the track record. They survived the bear market. They have Sailor.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's good for Bitcoin. Wicked good for Bitcoin. It's going to be. You don't want to be caught with your pants down holding those companies. That's Like once the market can get spooked so quickly on one of these leveraged Bitcoin equities, look at Semler, for example. So it's going to be really important that everyone's sharp during what could be a potential bear market. And they also have to realize not everyone's going to trade at the same premium. So you can't just be like, oh, this one's trading at a 1 multiple, I'm going to long it. Oh, this one's trading at a 4 multiple, I'm going to short it. It's not that cut and dry.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
I think it's interesting to see how, like, me and as investor, chasing a yield that can in a safe way outperform Bitcoin. That's the only thing I'm interested, because Bitcoin itself in cold storage is going to do phenomenal. It'll go above $25 million per Bitcoin in my lifetime, in my opinion, way above. So, but it's interesting to look at these different ones coming out now and seeing, well, where do I want to allocate my money? And so far, I will say the conclusion for me is strategy, and then MetaPlanet, and then I have a little bit of just dipping the toe just for fun. I sniped. I will happily admit I sniped the top of Kindly on Monday, right? Absolutely regarded by I did. Um, it's down significantly. I'm glad I didn't put more into it, and I got a little bit of Semler. But it's interesting to look at these and comparing them. All right, so let's see. There is some questions here, I think. So BDC Whack is asking, what is the range of the implied volatility, Dan?
Sorry, I was muted. Implied volatility
That's
is anywhere.
okay.
Yeah, implied volatility should just be anywhere from, I mean, historically, it's been anywhere from 30-day future-looking implied vol has been anywhere from 60% to 200%. So that's kind of what you're working. You just look at the annual.
200?
Yeah, it got there in November for a quick day. It was nuts.
Can you like DM me next time you see 200? Because then I'll maybe sell my MSTU.
I absolutely will.
Probably sell some covered calls as well.
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can find some more questions. Still bewildered by the FT sophomore fluffies. Yeah. Oh, Dan, my claim to fame is I got 1 second actually. I was in the Semler. Oh, sorry, not the Semler. In the Saylor video for 1 second at second 47, because I was lucky to so I'm emceeing at BDC Prague. I've done that since they started, and I'm doing it also this year in June.
Oh, cool.
And last year I got to introduce Saylor on main stage, which was awesome. And like 1 second from that is in that video, so that was fun.
Oh, wow.
But I haven't bothered watching that whole thing from like people talking to the way the lady, the interviewers, I don't know, it didn't sell it very well when other people spoke about it. Dan, how do you this is a question from Dylan. How do you decide when you exercise your long calls versus take profits?
Yeah, it's a tax thing. Typically, if taxes weren't a problem, you'd always sell calls. You'd always sell them instead of exercise them because there's a little bit of extrinsic value. But if the benefit or if the tax savings outweighs the extrinsic value of the call, then I'd be happy to exercise.
Gotcha. And thoughts from Spirit Hope Co. Hopco, Spirit Hopco. Thoughts on MNAV accretion? I don't think I've heard that term before. MNAV accretion.
I think it's just like harvesting the premium. Yeah, that's I mean, that's what I think strategy should do. I don't have a problem with the ATM personally. I've been thinking about it a lot. That's just part of the game. I mean, you're not going to get like crazy moves in a month necessarily with aggressive ATM, but what do you want? You need BTC yield to justify that premium. Once they stop yielding Bitcoin, I mean, it's going to trade at 1 MNAV. If that's what you want, like we could stop the ATM.
Dan, I think that Saylor is just sitting and waiting for those credit ratings in Strife and Strike. And I think he's going to give us a bit of a surprise. He's probably going to chill on I'm just guessing that, I'm not an expert in this area, but of actually running a $1 billion company, let alone Bitcoin treasury company. but I could see as an outsider the idea of, okay, I'm going to chill now on the common stock ATM, and then I'm going to hit strife and strike hard once they get the credit rating, and the market's just trying to push them up to $140, $150, right?
Yeah.
And now he's borrowing money for 6-7% and putting it in Bitcoin where he's getting 29%. I think, and that would then lever up the company, would put so much Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and the MNAV then would be running. And once it's run far enough, he could then hit the common stock ATM at a very accretive level.
Totally agree. Completely agree. Yep.
All right. So NDJ, why is the 300 trillion fixed income market participants not pushing for the superior products from MSTR to be raised so they can invest in? I honestly, I don't think they care. There's probably 200,000 fixed income products that they can invest in. It's not their job to develop any one of them. They just want to do at least as good as their colleagues so they don't lose their job. There's an old saying that that employers want to pay as little as they can without losing the employees, and the employees want to do as enough that they don't lose their job, right? People will not be seeking risk in a career. You got bills to pay, you got your mortgage, everything. So it is up to Saylor and to MSTR True North to develop that market. When I say that, I mean, of course, you know, the bandwidth you have for getting the word out is great, and you have an ability to get the word out on Strike and Strife. And just look at me. I listened to you, Dan, and I bought Strike Monday.
I think there will be many such cases in the near term.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got here. And we got just a few minutes left. Let's take the last question here, and then we can just do final words. December 2024, the 30-day implied volatility reached 141%, significantly higher than Bitcoin's internal implied volatility of 55.5% at the time, indicating elevated volatility expectations. And that's because, maybe you want to comment on it, but Dan, but really that's because strategy already is a leverage. It's vol on vol. It's vol on Bitcoin's vol because it's a leverage play.
Yeah, that was a good point. I think that was a good observation. I don't really have anything else to say to that. Perfect. You nailed it.
Okay.
See that, then you sell call, and life's good. Yeah.
And life is good. You know, I you know, the way I like to look at life in general is that even when life is not good, I appreciate that. I'm grateful for it because that makes you appreciate the good times even more. That's how I try to live my life. But Dan, thank you so much for coming on. We have 1,500 live views. Thank you everyone for watching. One of my friends have been hammering me that I should switch on the ads on YouTube. That it's just I'm regarded for leaving money on the table. So I think I have switched that back on YouTube. It may or may not be there. I don't know. If you see some crappy product, don't buy it. But sometimes, I guess someone has something that could be useful. Dan, final words from you where people can find you. Obviously, you have your X account right there on the screen, which is a great, absolute must follow. Probably everyone watching this already follow you. But what are you working on right now? What's your thoughts? Anything you want to share?
Sure. Thanks, Anders. Yeah, same old. I'm just chugging along. We're working on Achilles Intelligence a little bit more. That's just our options model for Bitcoin and Bitcoin related equities. Other than that, I just post nonsense on Twitter, and that's my life.
I would like to make a correction there. There is no nonsense being posted by you. I'm sorry. You're not shit posting. You can't claim that. I'm sorry. It's only good stuff there coming from you. I think this, we were done with the questions, but I like this one. It's relevant. It's short. It's easy. Will you please read the question and answer it, Dan?
Do you daily drive the Porsche, or is it only a weekend game? I drive it in snow, so I drive it every day. I drive it over potholes. I drive it like I stole it.
Yep. You drive it like you got it from Grain of Salt.
Exactly. I drive it like I got it from Grain of Salt.
Is it a full S? Is it 4-wheel driven?
No, it's just an S, so just rear wheel.
Right. Wow, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, too fast. Too fast for someone like me, but I just put it in wet mode. If you put it in wet mode, you can't break the tires free, so that's a good handicap sometimes. Sometimes you need that.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah. Sweet. All right, thank you everyone for watching, tuning in. It's 1,500 live views right now, which is split on 2 X accounts here, Dan and I, and my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, you can find a bunch of different older videos, of course. There's also my Christian content, which is approximately once a week. I'm trying to convert Christians to buy Bitcoin. I want to get that 2.3 billion Christians to stack some sats. Well, so on that note, thank you again, Dan, and I'll see you soon. And I'm definitely seeing you later this month in Vegas.
Fantastic. Thanks.